Well, hello, everyone. This is Jann Arden, and I'm here with Caitlin Green and Sarah Burke. I am in Saskatoon. I am looking out a picturesque window from the James Hotel, and we have a very special guest with us today. His name is John Batt. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about John Batt. John Batt is someone that Caitlin brought to me a few weeks ago, and he's got a very, very interesting Canada proud Instagram account called Canada.gov.ca. And .ca. Canada.gov.ca. Sorry, Caitlin. And he was born and raised in Fredericton, and he now lives in Montreal. And he is the administrator behind the very, very popular Canadian history themed Instagram account. You do live shows as well, and I'm going to get John Batt to speak to that. So I've actually made no sense whatsoever as to what this is, what it does, who you are. Everyone's very confused. They're driving off into the ditches. So, please stay with us. John Batt is here. John, welcome to the Jann Arden podcast and show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a true dream come true. You have no idea.
Well, listen, now you tell me what it is that you do. Caitlin, honest to God, I've been following you now. You've seen me pop up on your following, and yeah. I am just, I really am intrigued. My curiosity is piqued. So walk us through Canada.gov.ca.
Okay. It's funny because a lot of people buy tickets to my show. I've still only been doing the show since January of 2023. And so the vast majority of people that buy tickets are similar to you, have no idea what they're coming to see. They know that I'm not a stand-up comedian. I like to say it's like if maybe if Stuart McLean had a few drinks before he went on stage.
Oh,
might be
the Vinyl Cafe, folks, if you're not familiar with Stuart McLean.
Yeah, I mean he was obviously more fiction, like he was telling stories that were fictional, whereas like I'm sort of focusing on hilarious stories of Canadian history that you won't find in textbooks. I'm interested in silly things like Avril Lavigne conspiracy theories. Of course, we all know she's been replaced by someone years ago.
That's right.
I love Paul McCartney. I'm intrigued by things like the Peter MacKay and Belinda Stronach breakup that happened many years ago.
Yes, a tough one for the country.
Yeah, I was moved. The show is sort of a live presentation of the account, which is kind of pure chaos in and of itself. It really goes back and forth between serious and unserious. This morning I did a post on the Ogilvy Christmas window in downtown Montreal on St. Catherine Street. I mean, that's obviously a very genuine and sincere post about something historical. But then on Fridays, I post what are called my mood boards, and that's where I get much sillier. And that's where I make memes of you, Jan.
This was pointed out to me, John. Where did this begin? What made you wake up one day and go, you know what? The Peter MacKay Belinda thing is really bugging me, and I'm going to do a deep dive into one of the biggest political breakups. Not only did she cross the aisle, but she broke up with Peter MacKay.
It's incredible. It's good. It's amazing. It's good television. Like they need to make a reality show about it or something. I don't know. And then she started dating Ty Domi immediately after.
She went down by at least 9 inches, and I mean that height-wise, not as far as the wiener goes. And or not.
Who knows? We don't know. I have no inside information on Ty Domi now.
Yeah, the Ty Domi thing. Can I just need to interject and tell a very, very quick Belinda Stronach thing, because you'll appreciate this.
Sure.
Many, many years ago, and I was still drinking, so can I please have that as a caveat to this story? So I was drunk at this particular dinner. So we are in, I'm going to say Paris. I'm pretty sure it was Paris, and it was a young women's conference. And the conference in and of itself is fantastic. They invite entrepreneurial young women, like teenage girls from all over the world with their ideas and stuff. And they do kind of this little mini symposium. And we were after this thing was presented, I sang a couple of tunes. I was quite sober at that. Belinda Stronach is the brains behind this, and I think rightly so. It was a really neat idea. I don't think it's still going on. Anyway, we went to a restaurant. I continued to get drunker, and there was all these young girls there, chatting away. And Chris was there. He would probably remember. My road manager was with me. He would remember more about it than I do. But he was relegated to a children's table with like Belinda's assistant and somebody else. They weren't even at the main table. They were at like a little booth. There was like four of them commiserating. Anyway, all this food came out, right? Like miles and miles of food. And Belinda is sitting there with perfect posture with a shawl, like strategically wrapped around her neck. Picture Martha Stewart meets Catherine Deneuve on like Quaaludes, and just very blankly staring forward, not really engaging in conversation. I'm like eating food because I'm like, I'm really quite drunk and I need to eat something. Belinda pulled a tea bag out of her handbag. A tea bag came out, requested hot water, and sat there and just kind of nodded. I felt like that was the last time I ever saw her, and I still to this day am bothered by the interaction. That's all I have to say. I want to move on because I know I was super drunk. So, Belinda, if you're listening, which you're not, I'm sorry. But there's the only way through that was to drink a lot of French wine. But yeah, she just drank her tea bag. I don't know if she was trying to get camera ready for something or if that she just didn't eat
Bringing your
food.
own is a next level. That's a
It's a
rich
next level,
person.
right, John?
That yeah, you grew up with in a certain tier, I think, and even the best tea bag in France wasn't going to be good enough for you. So
That's such
Anyway,
weird
it's
behavior. I
been
love it.
bothersome, and I'm glad I can unload with you guys.
yeah.
Caitlin, questions. You have many, I'm sure. So please lead us on.
Well, it's sort of it's met like many questions, but also just I feel like what I really loved so much about the account when it started was that it was this final to me like appreciation of some of the ridiculous humor parts of Canada that I don't think regularly get celebrated. Or, people think about like beaver tails and like hockey, and I think there's a part of like Canadian culture that is really, really misunderstood, even by Canadian residents. Like I remember I grew up with like a famous, like it was like an artist, and it was a piece that he did called the Canadian Identity, and it was a little Mountie sculpture holding a mirror. And it was like, because it's a question that I think if you work in media, especially, or in arts in any way, you kind of wonder about. And I feel like John hit the nail on the head with so many things, from like a appreciation post for like the bridge mixture, or then like the
Mm.
story you shared about the spying on Rita McNeil. Like,
Yeah.
so many things like that I wish there was. I kind of wish there was that sort of a class in university, and you filled that void. Where I'm
Well,
like,
I kind of talk about all the bad things that we've done. Like
also, yeah,
yeah, certainly not letting the RCMP off the hook for spying on Rita McNeil for being a feminist. Um, Unbelievable that we
it's
went after
crazy.
her of all of all people.
Yeah.
Um, I think Canadians are absolutely sick and tired of a prepackaged version of the country that is actually sort of meant for Americans,
Yes.
almost
Yeah.
for the consumption of others than it is for ourselves. This idea that we're the version of Canada too, the one that I grew up with of sort of like moose and hockey and maple syrup, Mounties, etc. It's for white men really too. it's for bros. And as obviously part of that demographic myself, like even I've gotten sick of it. So I can't even imagine being a woman in this country, being like not a cis het male, or not being white. I think that there's a larger story to be told, um, and I just didn't see it um, enough. And I think that in terms of talking about the sort of the bad things, Jan, I like when you said that I'm sort of like a proud Canadian account or whatever. It's like I try to be careful there. Like I'm not necessarily a
Proud is
nationalist
a
in any
touchy,
way.
yeah, proud's a touchy word too. When
Yeah,
you
well,
speak
and
to,
Canada Proud being an organization in
yeah,
and of
yeah.
itself that I would never ever go near.
Well, even the
Um,
flag itself, right? The
no, I
flag
know we've
itself
sort
has
of, I
been,
know that's the thing. Like it's amazing with the flag. Like if I'm at a friend's cottage in the Kawartha Lakes in Ontario and I see a Canadian flag waving, I'm like, that's nice. If I see it on a truck, it's a different story.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, no, the account started with me at an office job that I absolutely could not stand. It was just soul sucking, and I honestly just was playing on my phone at work, sitting at my desk instead of working. I noticed it's really strange because I sort of worked backwards. I noticed that the account was available, the handle Canada.gov.ca. I thought that was funny that it was available. I thought the notion that the Canadian government or that the country as a whole would have an Instagram account seemed very silly. Instagram sort of had a different. It was younger at that time. Um, it was sort of an unserious platform, and I thought it would be funny to sort of follow friends with that handle and post very mundane photos of the Canadian countryside and landscape, just like a boat in a harbor in St. John's, Newfoundland. Like to me, that was just funny. Um, what happened was I accidentally started to kind of garner followers of people who mistook me, I think, for something real. And I'm an English major. I've always been sort of wanting attention, wanting people to listen to what I have to say, and so it was a kind of a
Yeah,
happy accident.
Concordia grad.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Concordia University. Yeah, I wanted, well, essentially, after getting 500 or 1,000 followers or so, and posting very ironically and insincerely up to that point, I thought, well, I've got this audience now. Why not start writing about things that I've found funny and interesting in the past? And these people are going to have to read it because it's going to come across their phone. And when I started to take the account seriously, it sort of really started to go up and up and up. And yeah, now I'm at whatever I'm at, 82 or 83,000 followers. So it's
I mean,
great.
that's got to blow your mind, right? That's a lot of
It's neat.
people.
When you think of like I'll be at a hockey game at the Bell Center here in Montreal, the Montreal Canadiens game, and the capacity in that arena is like 22,000 people or something.
I know
And I'm like,
exactly what you're visualizing because
yeah,
that's
and
what
I'm
I
like,
do
yeah,
too.
four of this follow me.
Yeah. Like imagine going down the street. It's like Jesus, you're on a hillside and you've got like fucking 85,000 people sitting in their tunics,
Yeah.
cross-legged, waiting for you to post the next picture. Yeah, you do visualize numbers because, when you see some of these people with accounts that have 52 million followers,
Yeah,
it's
that's like
hard
entire
to.
continents. It's wild.
So what do you kind of like what do you hope that people take away when they go and scroll through? Because what I've done is I've scrolled through. Obviously, Caitlin, turned me on to there's this guy. His name's John Batt. He's doing Canada.gov.ca. He's got a thing of you up, Jan. He's doing like a live show in Calgary, and I'm going to come to your live show. By the way,
You are?
yeah, I'm going to come. I'm actually home. It's the 23rd of January. I just want to say that,
Yeah.
and it's in Calgary. What's the venue?
It's at Best of Kin, which is a brewery.
Okay, well, I'll be there. I bet you they
Amazing.
have. I bet you they have something I can drink. So now I'm coming into the show and I'm walking in and I sit
Yeah.
down. I've had my ticket. What am I going to see?
Um, I usually come out to the beginning of When I'm Up by Great Big Sea. It's that a cappella with Alan Dahl. I am the fountain of affection, instrument of joy. So then when the fiddles come out, I walk on stage. That's sort of my walk-up song, as if I'm a wrestler kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, at least
and
it's
then
not
I
because I
come
do
out
your
and I'll,
girl. So,
well,
it's a better
what's funny?
choice.
The way I set up the show, because I was asked by a gentleman by the name of Zach Atkinson, who runs a music festival in my hometown of Fredericton, Shivering Songs. He was the one that asked me, would you ever consider doing a show? And I hadn't considered that. I had, but I was scared. I didn't know what it looked like. He said, well, I'll pay you to do it. I said, great, I'll get right to work. And I started writing that night. But what I have been done as a fairly chatty person, I've been asked to like MC weddings and stuff in the past that I kind of get tapped for that in my circle of friends sometimes.
Of course
I
you do.
basically set up this show as if I was MCing a wedding. And instead of like the best man speech or the maid of honor or whatever, I sort of just replaced those blocks in a Word doc with deep dives that I've done in the past. And yeah, so I sort of took a template of emceeing a wedding and made it about me entirely instead, or made it about the account. So that's sort of how I framed it. You come out, you tell people who you are, you give them a bit of context, there's a bit of an introduction, and then you get into the meat of it. The show is about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Sometimes there's a bit of a Q&A at the end. I think a lot of
Mullet.
people because I'm anonymous on the account, a lot of people come to the show wanting to see who I am, which is
Same,
funny. Yeah.
same.
Well, it's funny to think that I've become the content. It's sort of the opposite of what I ever expected to happen. It's like Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. This has happened with me, which is very strange. But yeah, no, it's a really good time. But Jann, I had to tell you something. So when Caitlin when Caitlin showed you the meme, or well, first of all, you were on my poster for the Calgary show.
That's what
Um,
she sent me. And then I said to her, I don't know what the fuck this is. Like,
Jan's
well,
like,
I hope
what
you
are you
weren't. I hope you
sending
didn't
me?
think I was using you to
no,
sort of
no,
like
it was
lure
nothing
people.
like that. It was nothing like that. I was looking at who else was on the different images of this
Yeah,
poster, and I'm like, wow, this is super Canadian. And Caitlin was trying her best to kind of describe what this gentleman does, and she
yeah,
was so positive about it.
I
And
just
she
was like,
said,
it's funny. It's like meme culture. And then Jan, I sent you the meme that you usually do on your mood board Fridays. And
yeah,
it was using the press image that we have in our podcast, like thumbnail. And so that looks like this. And it was the acronym TFW, the face when you've got money in your pocket, like the color of your hair, got a friend
I,
who loves you,
I
got a
was just
house.
like, I like this guy.
It's good. Like it's just
Well,
good internet culture.
so our first ever interaction on the internet was actually a few years ago, and
Oh God, I thought you were going to say we slept together in Fredericton in
you were still
99.
drinking.
It was consensual.
No, what happened was every Valentine's Day I make Valentines on the account, and over the years it's sort of changed. Now I do it in a different kind of way. I mostly make fun of conservative politicians with it, but they started very sincere, and I would take just my favorite Canadian celebrities and make make a Valentine out of them. And so I made one of you, and it was a photo of you, and it just said, "Could I be your girl?" And it said to from, and I just it was very just a simple little joke, obviously a reference to
Like the format of
uh
your childhood Valentines.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you would give away at elementary school.
Yeah.
Loved that day. Loved that
Yeah,
day
so
so much.
but what was funny was that and you're not the first to do this, but you clearly mistook me for the actual Canadian government, because you commented on the post, "Please stop the live export of horses to Japan."
You
Now,
know, that does not surprise me.
now I'm not taking anything away from your cause, because I think it is a very good one, but you have to
What an
understand
idiot.
how funny this was to me, especially because I truly am a lifelong fan. Like I've been a fan my whole life. So for our very first interaction to ever be you accusing me of exporting live horses was a very strange day for me. I
Do you see
commented
why
back.
I'm single now, John? Can you
Yeah.
understand?
Well, I replied to your comment and I said, "Hi, Jann. Big misunderstanding here. I'm actually not affiliated with the Canadian government in any way, shape, or form. I've never exported any live horses myself." And I said, "But I am a proud owner of a ticket stub to your concert at the Aiken Center in Fredericton of 1997, my first ever concert."
Oh God. Man.
That's a
Oh
So
crazy
my,
full
how
circle moment.
it
yeah.
is totally a full circle moment. Um, you know, it is life is so filled with wonderful surprises because
Mm,
you had no idea where this thing was headed. You're sitting having a day at a job that you don't like and
mhm,
wondering how you can shift your future. And I really love this because I had no designs, nor did Caitlin, and I think nor did Sarah, on the directions that we are going. We all started out in a field kind of, well, I literally was in a field holding a stubby beer with a hard helmet on with a bunch of people
in a
listening to
literal
Bob
field.
Seger. Like literally, I was in a field going, I am fucking doomed. What is a fucking thumb like me going to do with the rest of her life?
Mm,
And, Caitlin goes and fills in for somebody because they're like, so-and-so is going to, can you come in and do the, and then it turned in 13 years later, she's on Chum, with Marilyn Dennis on the biggest radio show in the world. And
wow.
Sarah is now running and has created a podcasting network that is ever expanding. Every week she's telling me, I just added so and so, I just added so and so.
Wow.
So I love the idea of doing something, just taking a chance on yourself. And
Yeah.
for all our listeners out there, you know, this is a lesson in that belief system. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where it's going to go. It
Yeah.
matters that you try.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kept a day job for the longest time because there was no income on what I was doing, but I posted relentlessly. It wasn't like, oh, someday it'll break through. It didn't matter. I just did it for the sake of doing it. I liked the
Exactly.
attention. That was good enough for me, really. But about a year ago, I actually was able to quit my day job to do this full time. So
Oh.
I've been the admin professionally for 1 year, and I had a show in Toronto that was exactly 1 year to the day of my last day at my job, and it was a beer launch that I did at Bellwoods Brewery. So I have my own beer now, if you can believe that.
Honestly, and like it's the I saw the John is very good at, I would say, aesthetics. And so the art direction, I would say, I guess, or the packaging for this beer is unreal, because it's like the old school plastic chairs we used to have in elementary school on the
Mhm.
beer. It's really
Yeah, I've kind of commandeered those as part of my brand, the
mhm.
Venres school chair. I'm not sure if those made it out all the way to Calgary, but they were ubiquitous and on the
No,
East
no,
Coast.
we
Yeah,
had them. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I'm much older than you guys, but when I first started out, it was a metal chair that was attached to the desk.
Oh,
So
right.
there
Yeah,
were no loose chairs. It was literally the desk with the bar, and you're in there.
right.
And for anyone that was not like of an average size, it would have been an issue to get
Yeah,
into that desk.
yeah.
Um,
No, but it's funny what you were saying about how like different decisions that you make take you different places. Like, I mean, just yeah, sitting there one day on my phone at work and instead of working to now actually sitting here and speaking with you, like it's that's very 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 funny and very insane to me. But you were a topic like a number of times on the account, just because I am like I have two older sisters. I grew up with a lot of women in songs type of music in the household.
yeah.
And so you were definitely a part of that. But yeah, I've been like I covered you at a show that I did one time where I was talking about songs you didn't know were covers. Like for example, the Great Big Sea, like When I'm Up is not a Great Big Sea song. It's a cover by a British band, Oyster Band. But
And it's such
Insensitive,
a huge song for them. Yeah,
yeah,
Insensitive, my neighbor
Insensitive is a
wrote.
cover.
Well, essentially, I created the original, but it was written by my neighbor. Her name's Anne Lurie.
Anne
She was
Laurie, that's right.
a waitress at a diner, and I would see her occasionally doing these crazy shows, charming, touching shows, but she couldn't really sing, and she'd be the first person to tell you that. And
Yeah.
the original version that I heard of Insensitive, that she had just written like 3 days before, I really should have known by the time
Yeah.
you drove me home by the
But the bones of the
big
song were there, and
Oh,
you could.
I just listened to it, I'm like, when she hit Insensitive, I'm like, "Holy shitballs."
Wow.
And it was before I even had a record deal. But anyway, yeah, that song changed my life, it changed her life. She bought a house, and
Wow.
when I first played it to her in 90 the end of 93 going into 94, we sat her in my little office that I had in Calgary, my management company, and she had her head bowed down, and she looked up after we played it really loud on this little blaster, and she said, "Oh, you've gone commercial."
Oh, come on.
She
Yeah.
roasted you?
Well, it wasn't, I think any writer is disappointed in a vision that they had. I added a lead break and I doubled the chorus at the end.
Yeah.
So when we recorded it, because the song was 2 minutes long.
Right. Yeah.
So
Mm.
I'm like, we got to repeat the chorus again. And anyway, it was,
Okay,
yeah, it was
wait.
one of those lovely things. But it has been covered now. Leanne Rhymes has covered it. There has been uh, uh, an abundant amount of Filipino artists that have covered Insensitive. A lot of
Oh.
like South Asian artists. It really struck a chord. And if you
Yeah.
go on YouTube, that thing has been recorded thousands of times.
Crazy.
Okay, wait. I feel like I just need to know what happened after with her.
She had no interest in it. She's got another song called "On the Verge" that I always wanted to record.
Okay.
And selfishly, I thought, I can't record another Anne Marie song that's going to be a smash hit that completely usurps everything I've ever done in my career. So I was very reticent to record another Anne song. And I really, that
Meanwhile,
was my
she could have gotten another house.
Well, I feel silly about it. And actually, years ago, probably 15 years ago, I asked if she could resend me the demo of that, and it's a beautiful song. And I should record
cooperate? Did she cooperate, or did she want nothing to do with you after the fame?
No, we've seen each other,
Okay.
from time to time. I've seen her just a few times over the last 30 years, and I think there's an appreciation for each other. But
Okay, good.
yeah, it probably was as difficult for her as it was for me.
Yeah.
When I die, it's going to be insensitive singer Jann Arden, and I know that. And sometimes it bugs me because it will be ahead of Good Mother. It will be ahead of Could I Be Your Girl? It will be ahead of any books that I've ever written. It'll be ahead of the Jann Show. It will lead the way. That is the engine to which my obituary will be pulled.
We can start a document of how you want it to go if you'd like.
Well, it's not going to have anything to do with me, and I'm sure I can't control the photograph. I don't know if you guys ever think about this, but CBC's already got like an obituary, a reel in the can. We've talked about that on this show before.
Yeah, for sure
Anyone
they
that's
do.
in the public eye,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They just bring it up so that
Yeah,
they
it's
don't
all
have
ready
to.
to go.
they need to go immediately
That's
because
so weird.
You got to beat the internet. You have to beat TMZ. So
Yeah.
they've got
I don't know if I like that.
no, it's true.
Insane.
But
It's
anyway,
weird.
Well,
let's
speaking
ahead.
of short songs, though, what can you tell me about like Run Like Mad?
Run Like Mad was it's been such a crazy trip on that. Like this has got to go back over 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah,
To
to
Dawson's Creek.
Dawson's
Paula
Creek.
Cole, I don't want to wait for my life to be over. Blah, blah, blah. They pay me to sing, can you tell? And some guy had been using some of my songs in Dawson's Creek. I know Good Mother played. They probably used 7 or 8 or 9 of my tracks, excuse me. And then the music director, when the Paula Cole stuff started happening and they needed to pay her out all this money, they thought, no, we're going to have our own theme. He's like, oh, we've used Jan's music. We just need 30 seconds. That's what he said to me. Are you willing to write a theme song for the show? And then I immediately had to watch the show. I'd never seen an episode in my life. So I watched like 5 episodes and wrote this with my friend Bob Foster, who wrote Good Mother with me in his little studio. And I wrote exactly 32 seconds. Because that's what they said I needed. I didn't even write a whole song. And it was Run Like Mad. And
it's like a fake song.
It's a fake song. It's a facade. It is an oasis in the desert, and there's no water there.
So like another 90
me.
minutes like doesn't even ever exist ever. Like you didn't ever finish it or anything.
No, that's it.
Wow,
I don't even
that's
know
so
it.
bizarre. It's like
We
a jingle
sang it on
almost.
tour once. We did a version of it on tour, and people just sat there dazed. They're like, "What the fuck is this? Like, stop doing it."
And so like they lost the rights to Paula Cole's thing, and then so they had to go back. So on Netflix, I think it is Run Like Mad.
Is it? I thought that Sony had done some kind of deal. Anyway, I got so much hate mail. People hated me, and then people kind of got used to Run Like Mad, and then there was a big thing, Paula and Jann, and I could see Paula Cole commenting, it's not really Jan's fault. She had nothing to do with it.
What?
I'm not mad at her. Because that was I didn't give a shit, but Paula, that was really a huge part of her branding and her career. And I think the fact that I just didn't care. I'm like, okay, I don't care. And I don't mean that meanly. It was just a job that I did, period.
Yeah. The other thing I heard was that their original first choice for the theme was Hand in My Pocket by Alanis Morissette.
And I wonder if she just flat out said no. But I think they paid me $10,000. That was it. There was no residual. There was nothing. It was a one-time payout, and that's what they wanted.
Wow.
So, it's on Amazon Prime, I think, and Hulu, Dawson's Creek right now. I just did a quick check. But whenever I went to binge watch it, whenever I was sick at some point over the last 3 years, I remember there was first your theme song, and I heard both. So whatever season it was uploaded as is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Paula Cole. I honest to God, I didn't know anything about anything.
I think
And
she did fine.
it was the 90s were weird for song placement because there was, I mean, I would be sitting watching, you know, Baywatch, and David Hasselhoff would be diving into the ocean 300 feet down on a single breath, rescuing someone out of a sunken Cessna, and I Would Die for You would be playing. I'd be like, do people get permission for this stuff?
That's crazy. Kind of the
But
Wild West.
Felicity, like the list of songs or the list of TV shows in the 90s that were playing my music was really, really cute.
You were like your song, You Don't Know Me, like, well, your cover of it was in one of my very favorite, it might be my favorite rom-com of all time, My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do
Great
think that
soundtrack. Really good, really good
such a good
soundtrack.
soundtrack and like a very good movie. And so if you're a millennial, Jann is like, I feel like you're kind of like ingrained in our culture, which is sort of the demographic that, you know, John and Sarah
But
and I
people
belong
don't know
to.
I am.
Yeah.
Like I'm not I've had a really great career in a sense that, sorry John that we ended up talking about me, but you're stuck with it now. I don't have this omnipresent career. Like I go through Costco on a weekend. People will be very friendly to me, but I've never been on an arc where I'm super famous or super anything. And that's really my perception of it.
Mm.
I still work. I mean, I'm out doing like smaller towns and cities for this Christmas tour, and it's manageable and I really like it. But I've never had people wait outside at a hotel for me, or I don't have that kind of fame. My fame is very Canadian, I think. It's very Canadian. So getting it back to you,
Yeah.
what is some of your favorite Canadian foods? And I know Caitlin had mentioned that you might have got the note that we're curious about food on this show.
Yeah. As someone from the East Coast, really into garlic fingers,
What
and
is it?
garlic fingers. It's
Right.
absolutely huge out east, and sometimes they'll be served with like kind of like a candied bacon on top and donair sauce. I'm sure you've heard of donair being out
Yes,
in,
yes.
in Alberta.
Yep.
So garlic fingers is sort of like it's like a pizza, except there's no tomato sauce. It's like sort of like a garlicky thing with cheese. Some people would call it like kind of garlic cheese bread. We
Ooh,
call it garlic
sounds
fingers.
so good.
It's sliced up into fingers, never in like a pizza shape. And then you dip it in donair sauce, what
Oh,
people put on
Jesus.
so that has to be, that's huge out east. Like you can't go out east without ordering garlic
I'm
fingers
so
with.
hungry. That is making the back of my glands. I'm drinking cold hotel coffee. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Have you ever heard of the candy chicken bones?
Oh God, no. What is that?
It's a little pink candy that's made by Ganong. Ganong is a very famous chocolate company out of St. Stephen, New Brunswick. And it's a hard candy. It's bright pink on the outside, and on the inside is like this cinnamon chocolatey thing. They are
Yes,
very
I think I
divisive.
know that.
Yeah.
We had them at Christmas time. There'd be like
Yeah, they're
one.
Christmas candy. I have some right here.
They look
They'd
like this.
randomly be. Oh yes, yes,
They're
Caitlin.
pink. Oh, look at this.
Yes.
See?
I got
And
a
I
jar
bet
of
you
them
those
right
were
here.
all stuck together. I bet you got to smash the
Right?
glass to get those loosened up.
Because they're from last year.
But sugar
Yeah.
will stay good forever.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, big fan of like sort of that kind of like regional stuff. Big fan of Sussex brand ginger ale. That's
That I
almost.
don't know.
Oh, really? That's absolutely huge on the East Coast.
Okay.
We're not really Canada Dry people out there. Well,
Okay.
a little bit, especially the cranberry
Yeah.
Canada Dry is just elite, absolutely incredible stuff. But we drink, like your grandmother would give you Sussex ginger ale growing up. It's a golden ginger ale, and it is medicinal. It hits like I don't know what.
Really gingery.
Yeah, gingery, and like a golden ginger ale is different from Canada Dry. Canada Dry is a dry ginger ale, hence the name. I'm a fan of poutine. Obviously, I live in Quebec.
Yeah.
Definitely a fan of poutine. I will eat bad poutine because I'm from New Brunswick, so we bastardize poutine all the time out there. You know, like we do it incorrectly. Like I grew up eating poutine at a rink, actually, like the Aiken Center where you performed in 1997. With like
bring that
shredded.
up again.
That was a great show, and a pretty big room, big building. It's a big arena, so it was a good night. I went with my sister. I was.
Do you think the world has us wrong, John? How, like
How so?
Canada as a whole, because I I do get sick of the quintessential maple syrup, Canadian back bacon. The
Yeah,
poutine gets to me a little bit. I think
yeah,
that we are the people. I think the United States in particular perceives us as the old lady in the attic. They hear us walking across
yeah, yeah.
the creaky floor once. Well, they know we're up here, but they really don't pay us much attention, and they know nothing about us, like
No,
zero.
yeah. That's why I've said that, like, the version of Canada, the one in the I am Canadian Molson, like that sort of version of us from the 90s is over. I think we can retire it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that this idea of Canada as being peacekeepers in the world is over. I think that many of us, every generation, I think, is more and more and more aware that we are three mining companies in a trench coat. That this isn't really a real country at all. That we're just a series of companies, and we've been more colonizing and as evil as any other country. So this whitewashing, or this sort of version of Canada as being like so nice, I think it's not doing us any good. It's not helping us. I think we need to be more honest with ourselves about our treatment of Indigenous people. We have to be more honest with ourselves with where we go, militarily on a yearly basis or weekly basis. um, yeah, I think we can. And I look at that I am Canadian commercial too. It's like a white guy in a plaid shirt. Like, this is the real. So this is the Canada people miss. Um, it doesn't work for me.
I can tell
That's
you,
absolutely no good.
yeah, I can tell you firsthand. I've traveled more in this country than really any other person that I know.
Hmm.
I've been doing it for 40 years, and I have been to every little town. I have traveled by air. I have been on a skidoo. I have been in a white panel van. I have been in a
Hmm.
broken down bus. I've been in pickup trucks. I'm traveling right now in my own car with my road manager because I won't go on the bus anymore with the band. I don't want to get whatever those boys get. Um, just chest colds and all that stuff. But
Hmm.
this country is so diverse. It is so many different things. I'm telling you, driving 45 kilometers from one town to another in Saskatchewan is so diametrically opposed as to what they do, who they are, how they talk, what they like.
Hmm.
And I'm not just making this up.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable. Like I said, I'm in Saskatoon now. I've been in Regina. I'm going to North Battleford today, which will be a completely different thing. And as far as the coast to coast to coast thing,
Yeah,
I can't even tell you who we are. We are everything.
yeah,
And I wanted to ask you before we let you go. Are you okay for time?
sure, yeah.
Okay. Just how we became so us and them, and
Mm.
how it got so divided, because it troubles me. And I make a little speech at the end of every show about we can't buy into that idea of who we are.
Yeah, well, because as long as we're having a culture war, we're not having a class war.
Yeah.
So that's why so much is shoved down our throats, I think, to make us squabble instead of organize.
And any ideas of how that can be reconciled?
Well, when I go around and do my shows and stuff, I sort of I don't think there's any um, uh, mistaking where I stand politically. But I also know that I can I can use humor and everything to
Hmm.
persuade people, or at least make conservative people feel dumb. Uh, but I'm also aware of what my limits are in terms of sort of changing the world. But I can help, I
You've got
think.
4 hockey rinks following you,
Yeah,
John.
sure. Yeah. Is it a bit of an echo chamber? Maybe, but that's okay. I think those
Do
are
you
hard to.
feel do you feel hopeful? I mean, I know we were in for a bit of a ride here this next 5, 6, 7 years. There will be a
Yeah.
changing of the government. There
Oh yeah,
will
for
be a
sure.
conservative majority, and
Yeah.
that is no secret, and it has happened for the last 60 years. We've seen
Hmm.
it time and time again. They get sick of the conservatives, the Harper administration, all of that stuff, then
Yeah.
it swaps over. So it's not like, "Oh, what a surprise this has been. We
Yeah.
just didn't see it coming." It happens every decade.
No, I know.
So
Am I hopeful? Like, I mean, I see Polyev as a very weak guy.
well, he's
So
he, he's anger-based guy. He's just
yeah.
and
So
he's just
I'm
no
not.
fun to listen to.
No, he's not. It's very it's not palatable at all.
No,
So that's gonna suck. There's no question
petulant.
about it.
It's very petulant.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, I think everyone will be sort of annoyed with him. I think it's really funny how his heroes down in the States are sort of turning on him. JD Vance, who's the incoming vice president in the States, just made fun of him
I
at like a
know.
dinner, made fun of Polyev. You know, it was like, do we really want a French Mitt Romney up there as prime minister?
Oh,
First of all, they think he's French, which is hilarious because his name's Pierre Polyev.
oh my
He's
gosh.
not.
But nobody has read a single thing about him, and that's going to
Yeah,
dog him. And no one really knows how to say his name. But let's not
yeah,
forget, J.D. Vance was very opposed to any kind of Trump administration, to the
right.
man himself. I
Yeah,
mean, when you even look back 3 or 4 years at what the man was saying about Trump, and here he is, the vice president. So nothing is impossible in
no,
this landscape, correct?
no, that's right. So I think I don't know if I think Trio has like sort of like a trick up his sleeve. I'm not sure what it is.
It's
I think
me.
I think
It's
one
me,
of yeah
John. I'm
it's
going to
Jann
be the
it's
Arden.
next prime minister
it's a
of Canada.
it's a Jan Rick
He's been
Mercer
grooming
ticket.
me. Oh God.
No, I
Do you
don't know.
know,
I
and I'm not kidding you, I think Canada would actually buy into a Jan Rick ticket.
yeah,
I think if
I
Rick ran for prime minister and I was behind him, they would go, "Yes." I mean, I
I think
think we'd get the majority. Honest to God, I really
it'd be
believe
it'd be a
we're in
lot of
this
fun.
entertainment
What have I
age.
started here? No, I think that would certainly be exciting. But I think Trudeau is going to pull some kind of rabbit out of a hat, whether it's suggesting universal basic income or stepping aside or both. Um, he's definitely he's definitely become effective recently in making Polyev look more and more like a hypocrite by getting him to vote against tax breaks
I know.
increasingly right now because
Yeah.
he's all about taxes, tax that, axe the tax.
And they knew they would.
Yeah,
You cannot tell me that in a room full of very smart, whether it's Freeland and Melanie Joly, and
yeah,
that they sat around going, guess what? The Conservatives are going to vote against this tax break for
yeah.
Canadians. Um,
So it's I think, but again, I mean, people are so decided though. So I don't know if that's going to actually change everything. It would have to be something absolutely massive, like suggesting universal basic income where people get $2,000-3,000 a month, sort of something like Serb. They sort of tried it with Serb. It was a success. The country didn't fall apart. Um,
I
so
know a
I
lot of
think.
people still struggling to pay that back, though.
Yeah, well, with universal basic income, they wouldn't be paying it back.
Okay.
It's certainly something we can afford. It's just like one subsidy to some mining company up in Northern Ontario that we
Oh,
don't
I
give
know.
that year. Like
Don't get me
we can
started on
afford
the
it.
cattle industry. Cattle, any kind of agriculture. I mean, the money that's poured into that, and rightly so, some of it is very justified when you're growing the food for a country, not cows,
Yeah, yeah,
not dairy,
yeah,
not
yeah,
things that are systematically killing people and ruining their health. That
yeah.
shouldn't have $1 billion poured into it every, and I'm sure I'm exaggerating. Listen, where do you want to go with this Canada.gov.ca?
Um,
What's the end game here, John?
well,
Um,
I've done pretty well not having an end game, and
I
just
love
sort of
that.
seeing where it's been going. Like having done a year now of going around and doing shows, and I'm fairly confident with what I've booked for 2025 that I'm going to be able to say that I did it for 2 years at least. I'm kind of looking at it a year at a time. Some of my
10,000
favorite
hours, John.
What's that?
10,000 hours.
Yeah, that's what they say, right?
Yeah.
My favorite things about sort of the country growing up were sort of the weird elements of things, like for example, Patty Schmidt as host of Brave New Waves in the middle of the night on CBC. That shit was incredible. It was so insane. Driving around stoned with your friends and her just being like, "You were just listening to Turtle Fucker out of Berlin on," and you were just like, "What the hell is that?" Or like some of the NFB shorts that would be on like CBC television at like 2 in the morning, where they were just like
Loved
fever,
those. The
like
I
National
fever
love
Film
those.
dreams.
Board of
I love
Canada,
those.
So that is the kind of
right?
stuff that has shaped me. And if I could, I don't know, if I ever had the chance to do something with the NFB in the future, that would just be
Mm.
like a dream come true. Or maybe like something with CBC. I don't know. I don't know
Well,
if
I'm going to rally for that.
Mhm.
yeah.
Listen, in a perfect world, if I had John Batt and your brand, your Instagram handle show open one of my shows, if I gave John a half hour to open a show for me, what would that be? You come out in a denim tuxedo? What happens?
Sometimes when I am in a cane tuxedo, it's completely by accident, and I forget that exists.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where that really is us. We really do dress like that,
Yeah.
and it's sort of just like, ah, shit, yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
It would depend, Jan, on the city that we're in, because one of the things that I do, which is very silly, is I tailor my show to the city that I'm in, which is dumb because when the
No,
show's
it's not.
over,
There's
well, no,
nothing dumb about that.
it's hard. It's harder. It's a lot more work, I guess, is what I was trying to say. Because when I'm done the show, I have to rip it up and throw it away and on to the next city. So when I do, like in late January, I'm doing Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Saskatoon, all like doing those 4 cities in 4 nights. Those will be 4 different shows that I do, one after another. So depending on where we were, if I was opening for you, I would certainly tailor it to some sort of funny things that have happened in that town's history. The art of it,
So
where I have to be
great. I
careful,
just
is that
love
I'm
it.
not telling people what they already know about their
Oh, I
town. Like
don't
if
think
I,
that'll happen.
yeah, well, you have to dig a little bit. You got to go Nardwar on their town a little bit, and then I think you can be pretty effective.
That's who you should do a collab with, and you also need to come out with merch because I do feel like you have an eye for branding. Just saying.
I have merch at my shows for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I've sold a bunch of stuff through the account. I had like a Crokinole provincial champions hoodie that I had for a while. I had a Maritimes thing. I'm
I'm
wearing
getting me some. I'm going on. I got to get some merch. I got to start promoting you. Like
yeah, well,
I'm
that'd be
glad
great.
that
But yeah,
Caitlin showed me your Instagram account. And for anybody listening right now, our listeners, please go to Canada.gov.ca. John Batt is the anonymous brains behind this account. And like he said, he started out going, he couldn't believe that this handle had not been picked up by the Canadian government. The Canadian government did not give a shit enough to actually have like an official. It's so crazy. Canada.gov. I thought I was so confused, but now that I know, now that I'm in on the joke, I love it so much.
yeah.
We are going to make sure in the show notes, Sarah and team are going to have all your upcoming dates. We're going to have a lovely headshot of you. We're going to have links to your Instagram page. Are you on Twitter? Are you an X guy?
No, it's no.
I'm very close to going off myself.
I still use it a little bit to read. I've made the jump over to Blue Sky, but in terms of the content for the account, it's just on Instagram. I'm not sure how that will look in the future. I know that apps live and die, so it'll be interesting to see. But no, I've been only ever there on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you have been an absolute pleasure to have on the show today. I'm so grateful that Caitlin, she's got her ear to the ground. I'm just like this aging person traveling to North Battleford singing old songs that are now 30 years old, which blows my mind. Yeah, but we just appreciate what you do. Everyone's going to love this. They're going to love going on to see what you're all about and to learn things about their country that they didn't know. Belinda Stronach, and I mean that in and of itself, anything to do
Right?
with her, and now her dad's in trouble, and
Yeah.
she's a
But
a
you
hot
can't stay
mess
away
right
from
now.
that just because it's a little, like you
Yeah,
gotta tell these stories, man. So
yeah, you really
it's
do.
It's all part of it. Like, us becoming a country, I think, the Shawinigan handshake is just as important to everything else. These are
Well,
these
next
are our
time,
little inside jokes that truly unify us, I think.
Mhm.
yes. Next time we speak, I want to know how we fucking ended up losing Alaska. Like, we got to get this straightened out. What the fuck? And the 51st state thing that is dropping out of Trump's mouth. And,
Yeah,
it's going to be a really interesting time. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again,
I
John.
would be I
And
would be
I'm looking
honored to.
forward to meeting you. I promise you, I will be there on the 23rd.
Incredible.
I'm gonna bring some friends and we'll drink. Hopefully, they have a de-alcoholized beer,
Yeah.
or I'll just bring my own tea bag. I'll just sit there. I'll ask for some hot water, and
Excellent callback there.
I won't even break a smile. Hey, that's what I do, night after night. I'm like,
You are
what the fuck
you're a
did I
true
say?
pro. You're a true
Yeah.
effortless too. Just
Yeah.
Well, it's just been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for taking time for us. And I wish you continued success. We're going to make sure that your Instagram account just keeps going up and up and up. I'm telling
cool.
you,
Incredible.
it's and I'm going
Amazing.
to start reposting shit. That's for damn sure. I've
Better
reposted
get that
something from
website,
you, and
dude.
people were like, "What is that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just reposted it. Caitlin told me."
Yeah, it's always
It's part
my
of the
fault.
fun, though. I think people figuring it out is part of the fun. And a lot of people have said at the end of my show, like, I bought tickets. I had absolutely no concept of what this would be, and I had a great time. So,
Listen, same. They show up for me. They're like, "Oh God, you're the lady that did that." I thought this was like fucking feats of flame, flaming feet. No. I don't dance at all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Listen, if you guys are wanting to hang around after this conversation with John Batt, of course, we're going to be doing some Patreon stuff, and we are going to be talking about, the guy that shot the healthcare worker dude. That's kind of an ongoing thing. They found him at McDonald's. We want to talk about that. Caitlin's got the latest on the United Healthcare CEO and his apparent shooter. The Taylor Swift stuff goes on and how concerts have been altered. We're going to talk about that. She's got some stats on jet setters. I did not make the top 10 list
I know,
on
Jan. I
jet
was sad for
setters.
you on that one.
I took a small prop plane from. I'm going to be taking one from somewhere to somewhere. It's because literally in Canada, John Batt, I can't fucking get to where I'm going on the ground. That's why I have to get into a plane, and I will white knuckle it the whole way.
yeah.
And we're going to explain how to join our Christmas party.
Yeah.
have a
Oh
Christmas
no,
party.
Caitlin. Yeah, they're gonna explain all that. You don't want to go away. The list goes on, but come and join us on Patreon. It's going to be one of those conversations, and we'll talk behind John's back also on Patreon.
John, do you want to come to our Christmas party?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have to be a member of our Patreon. I'm just telling you that.
Now you're going to charge the guy $5 to hear himself talk.
John is a fellow woman in the arts. I don't think we can charge him.
That's great news. It's funny you say that though, because a lot of people I get that all the time. I thought you were a woman.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
You do?
Well, yeah, and I have a much higher percentage of female followers than male, which
Really?
for male accounts is extremely rare. So
Yeah.
I think that I've done
That says
pretty
a lot
well.
about you.
I think I've done well posting for the ladies.
That's a
Which
huge
is-
compliment.
No,
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
I just as a final word, I am so flattered to be part of your Canadian landscape. You have no idea. I'm just like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I guess I'm kind of okay. I'm kind of cool after all. I'm not a complete dud.
You are absolutely part of my whole understanding of Canada and the arts and yeah, you played a huge role. So
Well, I'm really looking forward to the show. Once again, thanks for being on the podcast. Stick around for our Patreon ramblings. Caitlin's got a lot in store for you. So toodly do. We'll see you next time. And one huge giant holiday announcement before we leave. We're going to do something really special for our Only Jans on Patreon, and that is going to be a live event for some contest winners on Patreon. Caitlin, please do explain, because I'm just not doing it justice. The Jann Arden podcast is going to have a big, let's send out the drones, send out the fireworks, the sparklers. We're going to have a big end of the year event. And
Yeah, so
you
it's
want to explain to our listeners what it is?
Yeah, it's for our only Jans, and that's what we have come to affectionately refer to our Patreon subscribers as. So what's going to happen is we're throwing kind of like an end of year recording party. And if you subscribe to us on Patreon, we're going to pick 5 to 10 very lucky only Jans, and they're going to be selected to join our actual recording session. So you'll kind of be like a guest. It's like when we have guests on our show regularly. And so you'll kind of be part of the show that week. You can join one of our segments where we ask you questions. You can ask a question to Jann. So what we'll do is for anyone who already subscribes to us on Patreon, you'll see like an entry form come up. And if you don't already subscribe to us on Patreon, then get the heck over there and you can join us for our holiday year-end party.
I can't wait. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Jann
I
has
have
to be there.
questions for myself. I have questions
Okay.
that I'm going to ask. But yeah, if you have any little stories that you want to tell us, there's all kinds of things, all kinds of ways to approach this.
Mhm.
Certainly questions are great, but if you have some really fun little stories that you want to tell that are, 60 seconds long, we're gonna be there. But yeah, what we just thought, what a fun way to kind of see everybody, because your faces are going to be up on the screen. And Sarah she's the brains behind all the technical stuff that needs to happen in order to do this. We've been talking about it for the last week of how we can make this work and how we can make it fun for everybody.
Yeah.
And
We always do
yeah,
holiday content. Like we usually do sort of a holiday specific episode. So we were like, why not add in like a little Christmas party for all of our only Jans on Patreon? So it'll be there.
If you join the Christmas party, everyone gets access to chat and to be a part of it and to be on the screen. Just the lucky 5 to 10 winners will have access to actually speak and be a part of a segment.
well, I love that. And that's only fair. We can't talk to everybody. As much as I'd love to, you're going to have to just do that with me in Costco when we see each other. You're just going to have to ask me stuff in real time. It'll be fun.